Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Joshua Day Ornopia. And for this morning, I'll be discussing to you this continuation report of Miss Felicita that is entitled Learning Objectives, Their Importance and Construction. Okay, moving on for the next slide. Bear with me, guys. Okay, here it goes. So for the next slide, as you can see, there are table of process-oriented learner behaviors, and it consists of 6 table. So for the first one, that is the knowledge. So knowledge is the recall, identify, recognize, acquire, and distinguish. For the comprehension, it consists of the translate, extrapolate, convert, interpret, abstract, transform. For the third table, application, apply, sequence, carry out, solve, prepare, operate, generalize, plan, prepare, and explain. And for the fourth table of the process-oriented learner is the analysis. Analyze, estimate, compare, observe, detect, classify, discover, discriminate, identify, explore, distinguish, catalog, investigate, break down, order, recognize, determine, and outside. And for the fifth table, synthesis. Write, plan, integrate, formulate, propose, specify, produce, organize, theorize, design, build, and systematize. And for the last table is the evaluation. It consists of the evaluate, of course, verify, assess, test, judge, rank, measure, appraise, select, and check. And for the discussion of this slide, it will be going to tackle for the, I think, fifth slide, because I've been putting all the definition of this 6 table. Okay, so moving on for our third slide, that is the domains of learning. Okay, bear with me. I'm having a internet interruption in here. Okay. Okay, here it is. So for the third slide, as you can see, the domains of learning. So before I discuss to you the 3 parts of it, or the fundamental learnings, let me define to you first what is the domains of learning. So in learning has a psychological process. Thus, the assessment of learning of necessity requires the assessment of various psychological process. In developing assessment tools or tests, it is important that we as a student or as a teacher first have an understanding of these psychological processes and how to go about measuring them. Although there are many psychological models for the process of learning, we will look at the taxonomy of behavioral objectives, and I am referring to you the Bloom's taxonomy. So as you can see in the screen, there are 3 fundamentals learning domains, and it consists of cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. And for the next slide, first, the first fundamental of learning domain is affective. So affective is the learning of beliefs, attitude, and values. And also, the affective domain involves our feelings, emotions, and attitude. So this domain affective includes the manner in which we deal with things emotionally, such as feelings, values, appreciation, enthusiasms, motivations, and attitudes. For the next slide, we have, of course, the psychomotor domain. Okay. So as you can see on the screen, it is defined the learning of physical movements such as ballet steps, how to pleat a curve, ball, or how to drill out a cavity in a molar, etc. So for the psychomotor, This domain includes a physical movement, as you can see on the screen, coordination and use of the motor skill areas. Development of these skills requires practice and is measured in terms of the speed, precision, distance, procedures, or techniques of the execution. As I have mentioned a while ago, the ballet. Yes, that is also the techniques in execution. And for the last parts of the fundamental learning domain is the cognitive. Okay, where's my mouse? Okay, here. Gosh, kalag. Okay, as you can see in the screen, it is defined that the learning or the cognitive domain is a learning of information and the processes of dealing with that information. And so, for me, cognitive domain is it involves knowledge and the development of intellectual skills. This includes the recall or recognition of specific facts, procedural patterns, and concepts that serves in the development of intellectual abilities and skills. And for the cognitive, there are 6 levels of cognitive learning as specified by Bloom. So as you can see on the screen, first is the basic knowledge, comprehension. Third is the application, analysis, synthesis, and the last one is the evaluation. So as you can recall, the second slide that I have shown you a while ago, these are the 6 levels of katong table ba. So generally, these 6, it can be said that the first category, knowledge, is information oriented as it stresses the ability to recall existing knowledge. So the other 5 categories can be termed the process oriented. And so because they entail more sophisticated learner behaviors and competencies that require increasing degrees of understanding, the following and brief definitions of these 6 levels without suggestions as to how assess this level of learning. So as you can see on the next screen. Okay, as you can see in the next screen, these are the 6 levels of cognitive learning as specified by Bloom's taxonomy. So first one is the basic knowledge. So when you say basic knowledge, it is to recall and memorize. That is the key term of this one. So meaning you are assessing by direct questions. The object is to test the student's ability to recall facts and to identify and repeat the information provided. Okay. For the second level of cognitive learning is the comprehension, or it means, or simply term, the translate from one form to another. And it is defined, or it means that you are assessed by having students to restate material in their own words and to reorder or extrapolate ideas, predict, or the estimate. So in this assessment must provide evidence that the students have some understanding or comprehension of what they are saying. Okay, so understood. So for the third table, or the third level of cognitive learning is the application. So the application is to apply or use information in a new situation. That is the key term of application. So it is assessed by presenting the students with a unique situation for example, one not identical to that used during instruction. And have them apply their own knowledge to solve the problem or execute the proper procedure. So in other words, application, or to apply the used information for a new situation. And for the fourth level of the cognitive learning is, okay. Okay. Sorry, bear with me. I'm having technical issues with my laptop that I'm using right now. Okay, for the um, where are we? Yes, we are on fourth level of cognitive learning of the Bloom's taxonomy. So for the fourth one, it is analysis. It means, or simply means, to examine a concept and break it down into its parts. So it defines that it assessed by presenting students with a unique situation of the same type but not identical to that used during instruction, and have them analyze the situation and describe the appropriate procedure or solution to the problem. The key word in here is analyze. And for the fifth one is the synthesis. In simply term, it is to put information together in a unique or a novel way to solve a problem. So to describe further what is synthesis, it is assessed by presenting students with a unique situation, not of the same type, used during instruction, and have them solve a problem by selecting and using appropriate information. Okay, moving on for our next and not next and last type or 6 levels of cognitive is the evaluation. So it simply means that to make quantitative or qualitative judgments using standards of appraisal. So to explain further, it is defined that assessing by presenting the students with a situation which includes both a problem and a solution to the problem, and have them justify or critique the solution. Okay, so since we're done with the 6 levels of cognitive, we'll be moving on with the levels of affective objectives. So, okay, so before I tackle about the five or the 5 types of the levels of affective objectives, I will be discussing to you first what is level of affective objectives. So, excuse me. So it is a Krathwohl's affective domain taxonomy is perhaps the best known of any of the affective taxonomies. The taxonomy is ordered accounting to the principle of internalization, in which a person's affect toward an object passes from a general awareness level to a point where the effect is internalized and consistently guides or controls the person's behavior. Okay, so moving on with the first level of affective objectives is the receiving. So it defines that receiving is being aware or sensitive to the existence of certain ideas, material, or phenomena, and being willing to tolerate them. Example of this is differentiate, to accept, or to listen, or to respond to. So that is example of the receiving. And for the responding, this defines that responding is committed in some small measure to the ideas, materials, or phenomena involved by actively responding to them. Examples of this are comply with, or to follow, to command, to volunteer, and to spend leisure time, and to acclaim. And for the third level of affective objectives is the valuing. Valuing is willing to perceive by others as valuing certain ideas, materials, or phenomena. Examples include our increased measure proficiency in, or to relinquish, to subsidize, to support, and to debate. That is valuing. And for the fourth one is organization. Organization is simply means that it's to relate the values to those already held and bring it into another harmonious and internally consistent philosophy. Examples of these are to discuss, to theorize, to balance, and to examine. And for the characterization, the last one is it means that the value set is to act consistently in accordance with the values he or she has internalized. Example of this, the example of the characterization includes to revise, to require, to be rated, high in value, to avoid, to resist, to manage, and to resolve. Okay, so moving on with our next slide. Going for the levels of psychomotor objectives. So in here, when you're talking about with the levels of psychomotor objectives, it has a 4 types level or 4 levels of psychomotor. First is the observing. So for the observing, here. Okay. So observing, it defines that active mental attending of a physical event. And then the second one is imitating, or it defines attempted or copying of a physical behavior, imitate. And for the third one, practicing, then it defines like trying a specific physical activity over and over. So, okay, for the example of this levels of psychomotor, first is observing. So as a learner, the learner observes a more experienced person in his or performance of the skill, as to observe sequences and relationships, to pay particular attention to the finished product. So they are observing. Okay, so direct observation may be supplemented by reading or watching a video. So the learner may read about the topic and then watch a performance. Okay, so for the second one is imitating. Example of this is the learner begins to acquire the rudiments of the skill. So the learner follows direction and sequences under close supervision. So as a teacher, we will be supervising our learners. So the total act is not important, nor is the timing or coordination emphasized. The learner is conscious of deliberate effort to imitate the model. Okay, so for the third one is practicing. So example of this is the entire sequence is performed repeatedly. All aspects of the act are performed in sequence. So conscious effort fades as the performance become more or less habitual. Timing and coordination are emphasized. Then here, as a person has acquired the skill but is not an expert because they are practicing. And for the fourth level of psychomotor objectives is the adapting. So it defines the fine-tuning, making minor adjustment in the physical activity in order to perfect it. Example of this is perfection of the skill. Minor adjustments are made that influence the total performance. Coaching often very valuable here. So this is how a good player becomes a better player. And for the psychomotor domain, just to sum up everything what I said, the psychomotor domain refers to the use of basic motor skills, coordination, and physical movement. So Bloom's research group did not develop in-depth categories of the domain, claiming lack of experience in teaching the skills. However, Simpson, 1972, developed 7 psychomotor categories to support the original domain. These physical behaviors are learned through repetitive act practices. A learner's ability to perform these skills is based on precision, speed, distance, and technique. And yeah, that's all for now. I hope you learned a lot about my discussion of the three learning cognitive and the process-oriented learning, that is 7 types, which is the knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. And just to recall to you the domains of learning, that there are 3: the affective domain, the psychomotor domain, and the cognitive domain. And yeah, that's all for now. Thank you and see you next meeting. Bye.